Hi everyone. Hi, welcome to PW International Boards. Hello everyone. Alright, so I hope you all are doing amazing and extremely fantastic, and you all know I'm your biology educator at PW International Board, and in today's live session we are going to discuss one topic, that is respiratory system. So I'm really excited. I hope you all are excited too. So let's wait for a few minutes to let everyone join. Yes. Alright. So we can start our session. Today's session is going to be respiratory system from Cambridge IGCSE Biology 0610, and let's leave no stone unturned after the discussion of this particular topic. In between our session today, we are going to have one guest today with us also. So are you excited to meet him? Yes, let me know in the comments. Are you excited? So let me introduce you to our guest today in the class, who will be helping throughout our session today. Alright, so meet Mr. Joy. Yes, we have removed all of its organs with his permission. Yes, and donated them. So we will be requiring his help throughout the session, and we will call him whenever we need him. Alright, so we will be starting our session now. Get ready for the session. Alright, so in today's session we have the topic as respiratory system here. The topics that are going to be covered in today's session is respiration in humans, features of respiratory surfaces, lung surface, lung capacity, protection of the breathing system. Alright, let's get started without further ado. Done. So what is respiration actually? As we all know, we all eat food, yes, and we also breathe. Particularly, we breathe the air that has oxygen, that is actually a mixture of gases. But we are concerned about oxygen and carbon dioxide only. We require the oxygen that will be used up by our cells to carry out the process of respiration. And we also are eating the food that we require, right, to obtain the energy to derive our metabolic reactions that are occurring inside our cells. Understood? Now, what is respiration particularly? It is actually that you are going to obtain energy which is stored in the chemical bonds of a carbohydrate. And what is that carbohydrate that we are getting from the food that we eat? That is the glucose here. And how do we represent glucose? That is C6H12O6. Alright, so this is going to be our reactant. So we are writing it on the left hand side of this reaction. So let me write the reaction here, C6H12O6, that is reacting with oxygen from the air that we have just breathed in. So glucose is reacting with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide as the product, water as the product, and a lot of energy is released during this reaction. And what do we call this reaction? We call this as aerobic respiration. So is there any other term which is occurring in the absence of oxygen, right? This is aerobic reaction, aerobic respiration reaction. So when we require oxygen to carry out this process of respiration to obtain energy, we call it as aerobic respiration, and we do not require the oxygen, then we call it as anaerobic respiration, that is carried out by certain cells, that is also present in human body, and that is also performed by yeast cells also. Done. So respiration is process where energy from food is released. Yes, we have released the energy here. Understood? Aerobic respiration requires oxygen and produces carbon dioxide. Yes, that statement is also true here, that oxygen is being a reactant in this particular reaction and carbon dioxide is going to be produced during this reaction. I hope this is clear. I hope this thing is made clear to you all. Then, now, in this particular diagram, you can refer to this here. What goes in? Oxygen is going into the body from the air. Glucose is going into the body from the food that we eat, right? And respiration process releases the carbon dioxide as product in the air that we exhale, that we breathe out. So the air we are breathing out is actually having a high concentration of carbon dioxide in it. Then energy is also released. This energy keeps our body running because it is enabling our cells to perform various metabolic reactions inside our bodies. Understood? Water is also released as a byproduct. Then let's move to another slide here. So gas exchange is the topic here. Oxygen is gained from the air through lungs. Yes, as we breathe, the air is going to enter through the nostrils here and to the nasal passage. Then it is going into the windpipe and then distributing to the lungs. Then you can understand this through Mr. Joy. Here he has come again. So, alright. So, this is the nose over here. The air is going to enter into the nostrils here. The air is entering into this side. Then this is whole the nasal passage over here. The air is going to travel down. Then we have here portrait that esophagus is also there and trachea is also there, but anatomically the esophagus is present behind the trachea. For representation through this body, we have just represented that esophagus is present over here, but it is not actually present over here. It is present behind the trachea, that is the windpipe here. Understood? So the trachea is going down over here. Then this particular pipe is going to distribute the air into both of these lungs. This is our right lung. So how can you study which organ is placed at which position? So how can you tell that which position is right and which position is left? You have to assume the human body as it is present in front of you like this. The right hand side of the body should be the right hand side of your body. It should be coinciding with your body too. The left hand side of this body should be coinciding with the left side of your body. That's how you relate how the organs are placed in your body. So this is the right lung. Understood? And this is here is the left lung. The air has traveled from the nostrils going to the nasal passage. Then it is traveling to the trachea. The trachea is now distributing the air to both of these lungs. Then now on this region a dome shaped diaphragm is also present, which has been removed with his due permission. Alright, so you can imagine a dome shaped structure over here, that is also a muscle that helps in the respiration process. Not actually the respiration, but in the inhalation, in the exhalation process. And by the inhalation we mean that we are breathing the air into our body. Alright, and by exhalation we mean that the air is going out from our body. Now this particular region in which our lungs are situated, the diaphragm is there, the trachea is dividing into two further pipes. We are going to study the name of these pipes also. Understood? So this particular region is going to be called as thoracic cavity. Now can you spot these structures over here? These structures, can you spot? Alright, so can you spot these structures? These are ribs that will be caging the lungs over here. These are going to surround the lungs for its protection now. Done? I hope this thing has been made clear to you all. Alright. So thank you Mr. Joy. We will join you later. Alright. So as you understood, where is lungs actually situated in your body? Where is diaphragm? Where the air is entering into your body and then it is going down toward the respiratory passage over here. Let us understand a bit deeper to this topic. Oxygen is gained from air through the lungs. Yes, because the lungs are basically carrying the air inside it. And inside the lungs, there are further more structures which are responsible to transport this air from outside environment to the inside. And by inside, we mean that the air is going into our bloodstream. And from that blood, the air will be used up by our body cells to perform the respiratory reactions. Done? And carried to tissues via the blood circulation. I hope this is clear to you all. I hope I have made this thing clear to you all. Understood? Done. Carbon dioxide is removed from tissues and expelled through the lungs. We will understand how this process actually happens here. So, carbon dioxide is removed from the tissues because we have already understood the respiratory reaction over here. You can totally relate to this reaction that the carbon dioxide is on the product hand side. Done. So, this is going to be removed out from the body. and expelled through the lungs. Yes, we will definitely do the past papers from this particular topic as well. Yes. So the air is going in. Actually, the past year questions related to this particular chapter or topic will be taken up in further sessions. The air is going in. Air going in, and through this arrow we are representing that the air is going out. Understood? The lungs are moving up so as to increase the volume. Since air is coming into the lungs, so it has to increase its volume. The diaphragm, this muscle here is representing diaphragm. This is here diaphragm, a dome shaped muscle. It is actually a muscle that facilitates the action which further helps in the inhalation and exhalation process. Understood? So it is going to be flat muscle when we are inhaling, and it is going to be a domed, or you can say more domed, more arched structure. Let me write it here, more arched. This is about the diaphragm here, and the lungs are going to decrease in volume here while we are exhaling. So these two images are representing. Here on the left hand side we have inhalation, and on the right hand side we have exhalation for this. All right. So we have the features of respiratory systems, respiratory surfaces, in which first feature is that it has large surface area. Now we have come across this word alveoli many times. Now let's just understand this more deeper so we don't forget it easily. Done. So small sacs of air in lungs provide a vast surface area for gas exchange. So when you observe the lung, done. So lung is present in front of you. Imagine that you have the lung present in front of you, and you dissect it. You cut it like this, done, and you are going to observe it from side. You've had this lung, you have cut it like this, and you are observing it from side. You are going to observe many sac-like structures, many bubble-like structures. What are these structures? These are alveolar sacs. And what function do they serve? They help in getting the oxygen into our blood and removing the carbon dioxide out from our blood. So that's how the alveoli perform its function. Understood? Now alveoli are small air sac in the lungs which are providing a vast surface area. Now how do they provide such a vast surface area for the gases exchange? Let us understand this later. More surface area enhances diffusion of gases. So I hope you all are pretty familiar with this term diffusion. What is diffusion? It is movement of substances or molecules from a region of high concentration to a region of low concentration. Then, but how the diffusion rate is affected? So if you increase the surface area, once you assume that the diffusion was occurring through this surface, and then the diffusion is occurring through this surface, which part or which condition will you say that this is serving more diffusion rate? This is serving more diffusion rate. The decreased surface area will serve decreased diffusion rate, and increased surface area will serve increased diffusion rate. So that's why we have alveolar sacs that increase the surface area. So as they increase the surface area, they increase the diffusion rate. Understood? And where are they present? They are present inside our lungs. So let us understand how these alveoli are formed here. Let us understand through a diagram here. Let us imagine. All right. So these are the nostrils here. So I'm trying to make Mr. Joy over here. All right. The air is going into this region. What do we call this region? These are nostrils. Then it is traveling the nasal passage over here. Understood? Then it is moving toward the larynx region, and then, all right, so we have esophagus here. This is the esophagus, and here this is the trachea, or you can simply call it as windpipe. So windpipe has these ring-like structures, and what function do they serve? They prevent the collapsing of windpipe. Understood? So they have a function in prevention of this collapsing of windpipe here. This windpipe or trachea is going to divide into two lungs. So when it is dividing into two lungs here, the name changes. The name now to this pipe is going to be bronchi for two pipes and bronchus for one single pipe. So these are the bronchi or bronchus. Now here these are the two lungs. Inside each lung, the bronchi are further divided into fine branches. We call them as bronchioles, and these bronchioles terminate into alveoli, the alveolar bags or alveolar sac. Understood? These are the alveoli. So let us label this along and try to label it by yourself also. It will enhance your memory also. Alright, so here these were the nostrils, then this is the pharynx region. It is a common passage for both food and air, right? So this particular passage will be having both food and air, but at different times. When the air is there, the food will not be there, right? So that's now the further division of pharynx will be there. Oropharynx, laryngopharynx. Alright, so let's not get too much deep into that. This region here is larynx, and here we have the trachea or the windpipe. Understood? Now we have these two structures over here. These two pipe-like structures, these are what? These are bronchi. So bronchi is actually a plural term. These bronchi are further going to divide into several bronchioles inside each lung. So these structures here are bronchioles. These bronchioles are going to terminate into alveolar sac. These are alveoli. Alright, so you can have a glance at that. These are the alveoli here. Alveolar bag, or you can call it as alveolar sac. What are these? These structures here? These are bronchioles. Understood? What is this structure here? This is trachea. What is this structure here? This region here is representing bronchi. Alright, this is bronchi. So that's how the respiratory system looks like. Alveolar sac are the small air sac in the lungs that provide a vast surface area for gas exchange. Understood? More surface area enhances diffusion of gases. We have already understood this. Moving further here, the epithelium. Now the epithelium, or the surface through which the diffusion is going to occur, should be very thin in nature. And what do we mean by thin? That the surfaces should be too flat, too thin, so that the air can easily transport from one region to another. Now the epithelium. So what is this epithelium we are talking about in this respiratory system here? Done. Only two cell layers separate air in alveoli from blood in capillaries. Now it is talking about, actually, can you locate where the alveoli is present? It is present here. This is the alveoli. This is the alveolar bag. Understood? And what is this? This is the blood capillary here. This is the blood capillary. So one epithelium will be itself of the alveoli. Here, this region, let me erase it. Yes, this region will be the first layer the air will be encountering, and then it has to cross the epithelium of this blood vessel here or the blood capillary to enter into the bloodstream. This is the another layer here. Alright, so these are the two layers. Now both of these layers are one celled thick. This is one celled thick, this is also one celled thick, so as to facilitate more and more, and that too at a very high rate, that too at a very high pace. That's why we have the epithelium as a thin flat structure here. Only two cell layers separate air in alveoli from blood in capillaries. And what are these two layers? First is the alveolar layer and second is the blood capillary layer. I hope this is clear. Minimal distance facilitate rapid diffusion of gases. And why it is done? Because the diffusion is a process in which if you increase the surfaces distance, so distance between these two surfaces, if it is increased, it is going to increase the time taken by the gases to travel across these surfaces. If you minimize the distance between them, if you reduce the distance between these two surfaces from which this diffusion is occurring, it is going to tell you that diffusion is occurring at a very high rate, at a very small time. The molecules are going to be transferred very rapidly if the distance is very less. So that's why the distance has been kept less so as to maximize the diffusion rate. I hope this is clear. Done. So gas exchange within the alveoli is occurring here. The alveolar duct connected to bronchiole, since the bronchiole was terminating into the alveoli here. This was the bronchiole, right? So here in the diagram, it has represented that alveolar duct is there that has a connection with the bronchiole. Then the airflow is either it can be in or it can be out. The air can go and it can also leave the alveoli. Alveolar epithelium is there. This is the alveolar epithelium we were talking about, and we have already marked it with pink marker here. This is the alveolar epithelium. Understood? The alveolar air space, the space present inside the alveoli here is the alveolar air space. Pulmonary surfactant, that is of no use over here at your you can say at your in your syllabus actually. So blood flow is here, and this is the capillary wall which we have represented with white marker here. This is the blood capillary. I hope this thing is clear. This is the alveoli. Alright. Good blood supply should also be there so as to maximize the diffusion. And why do we need good blood supply? Now imagine if this is the alveoli. This is the alveolar sac over here, and this is the bronchiole. This whole arm is the bronchiole and this is the alveolar sac. Now these alveoli are richly connected with, are richly supplied with extreme blood vessels. Extreme blood vessels, and they are in very close proximity with the alveolar sac in order to facilitate more and more diffusion, and that too at a very high rate. So alveoli is here, the air has entered into the alveolar sac, the alveoli is richly supplied with blood vessels, the blood is continuously flowing through these blood vessels, and for the moment it has a connection with the blood with the alveolar sac here. The blood which is coming from the body is having high concentration of carbon dioxide and low concentration of oxygen. Why is that? Why has that occurred? Because our body has already utilized the oxygen present in our blood, and that's why it has went back to lungs in order to get oxidized again. It should be oxygenated blood again in order to serve the functions that are performed by our body cells. Done. So this is the alveolar sac, this is the blood supply here. The blood is having high concentration of carbon dioxide, low concentration of oxygen. This alveolar sac here, in this the air is having high concentration of oxygen now, so as to transfer the oxygen from alveolar sac into the bloodstream. Diffusion requires a concentration gradient. Done. So if the concentration gradient is there, there will be going to diffusion. The diffusion will be allowing the passing of air molecules. Let us talk about oxygen here. The oxygen is high in quantity or high in concentration in alveolar sac. It is low in concentration in blood supply in the blood capillaries here. So it is going to transfer from where to where? You can answer that. It is going to transfer from alveolar sac to the blood vessels here. that are connected here. Understood? And what about the carbon dioxide here? The carbon dioxide, which was in the high concentration in the blood supply here, it is low in concentration in the alveolar sac. The blood, which is having high carbon dioxide concentration, will now allow the carbon dioxide to enter into the alveolar sac here, and that's how the carbon dioxide will be removed out from the body as we expel the air out, as we exhale. Understood? I hope this thing is made clear to you all. All right. Alveoli is surrounded by extensive network of blood capillaries, maintains low oxygen concentration in blood. I have already made this thing very much clear to you all. I hope this is clear. Then high in alveoli, and this will help in rapid diffusion. Done. Continuous removal of carbon dioxide should be there into alveoli for the expulsion of the carbon dioxide from our body. These are the alveolar sac here. Alveolar sac. What are these? These are the bronchioles. And what are these web-like structures present over the alveolus? These are blood capillaries. These are blood capillaries. I hope this is clear. I hope. All right. Let's move further. All right. So what do we mean by ventilation here? Ventilation is a term that has been provided to that situation in which the fresh air replaces the stale air which was already present inside our lungs. So replacement and bringing up the fresh air again and again, that is what we mean by ventilation. Let us read through the statement here. Action of breathing maintains a steep concentration gradient for efficient gas exchange. Yes, that's why breathing is necessary, to replace the stale air with the fresh air. Fresh air replaces stale air, ensuring high oxygen, because the air we are inhaling is rich in oxygen. It is high in oxygen concentration and low in carbon dioxide concentration, and low carbon dioxide concentration in the alveoli. This will facilitate entry of oxygen into the bloodstream and exit of carbon dioxide from the alveolar sac. I hope this is clear. This is oxygen going in. The thoracic cavity or the ribs are going to lift the lungs up. Where are the ribs present here? Let us take the help of Mr. Joy here. The ribs are present here. These are representing a cage-like structure which are present over the lungs. This will protect the lungs actually. Understood? So this is the rib-like structure which we commonly call as rib cage. Done. So the ribs are going to pull the ribs are going to pull the lungs up when we inhale, and the ribs will automatically allow the lungs to come at its original position and also go beyond that when we exhale. So it is going like this. The thoracic cavity is showing an increase in size when we inhale, and it is showing a decrease in size when we exhale. I hope this is clear. Thank you, Mr. Joy. All right. The carbon dioxide is moving out from the mouth here. The thoracic cavity is lifting up and then going down. Moving further here, since we have completed first topic of our session today, we will move with a little quiz here. So try to answer this question by yourself also by the time I solve it here. In some amphibians, now what are amphibians? Amphibians are those organisms which live on land and as well as on in water. So they can live on land and as well as in water. Gas exchange occur through the whole skin surface. So when they are living inside the water, the gas exchange is going to occur from the skin here. Done. The skin should be moist. What are most likely characteristics of skin surface? Now in order to let this respiration or gas exchange happen in amphibians, what should be the characteristic of a skin surface? It should be thin, right? So as to facilitate rapid diffusion. Then rapid diffusion will allow more and more oxygen to be going into the body and more carbon dioxide expelling out from the body. That's why thin skin will be required. And then talking about its surface area. its surface area should be large so as to allow more and more molecules of oxygen or air entering into the body and more molecules of carbon dioxide going out from the body. So this should be the option in which surface area is large and type of the skin should be thin. So that's how we get the answer for this particular question. You can easily correlate if you got the right answer or not. Alright, so let's move to another topic here. Moist surface is required. Respiratory surfaces are moist in land dwelling mammals. What are those land dwelling mammals? These are those organisms having mammary glands and that they are also terrestrial in nature. They require land to live on. Done. Moisture helps dissolve oxygen before it diffuses across epithelium. So they have these moist surfaces inside their respiratory system because the being the moist in nature, the moisture will help to dissolve the oxygen before it actually diffuses across the epithelium. The moisture will allow the oxygen to dissolve into it. Understood? Once it will be dissolved and then it will be going to transferred across this epithelium and directly enter into the bloodstream. This was all about the land dwelling mammals. This is the land structure here and we have already understood about this. Let us label this together here. What is this? Alright, so let me so you tell what is this lung here, in which position it is placed. Is it the right position or it is the left position? Try to tell. By the time I label all the other structures here, what is this? This is here representing windpipe, or you simply call it as trachea. What is this? These two structures here. Try to tell. What are these two structures? These are bronchi. I hope this is clear. Then what are these structures which are going to be terminated into alveolar sac? These are bronchioles. So were you able to find which location in of this lung which it is placed in? Is it the right one or the left one? So when you answer this, you might need the help of Mr. Joy again here. So this is right lung here, this is the right lung and this is the left lung here. So when we have the diagram as present in front of us also, we have to just see it like this. So what was this lung here? This was the right lung which is actually present on the left hand side here. And what is this lung here? This is the, try to tell, this is the left lung here. So which is present on the right hand side is actually the left lung. Alright. Alright. So we can write here that this is the left lung here. And on the left hand side we have the right lung. All right. So we will join Mr. Joy later. All right. Lung structure here, having the thoracic cavity. I have already made you all understood about this thoracic cavity in the start of the session here. The region in which the lungs are located is termed as the thoracic cavity. Lungs are located in the chest region, or you can call it as thorax. That's why the name is thoracic cavity. This is thoracic cavity. Texture. So lungs have a spongy texture and can expand and compress with movements of the thorax, facilitating breathing. So that's how it enables the lungs to expand and compress because it has a spongy texture. Understood? Air passage, the back of the mouth connects to the larynx. Now, how it is telling us that the back of the mouth is connecting to larynx? Let us get back to the diagram that we have drawn earlier. Alright, so this is the region larynx here. Alright, so this is getting connected to the windpipe or the trachea. This was the region it is telling in the statement present in the previous slide. We are talking about this particular region. I hope this is visible. Yes. Moving further. The back of the mouth connects to the larynx. You can connect with our team at PW International Boards. So you will get the answer. Yes, it is visible. Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Jochita. All right. The back of the mouth connects to the larynx, which leads to windpipe or trachea. The trachea here, it is actually the windpipe that divides into two bronchi, and when we term a single pipe, that we call it as bronchus. Upon entering the lungs, human lung anatomy, it is actually the anatomical structure present over here. You can easily tell left and right in this. The right hand side is actually the left hand side, and the left hand side is actually the right hand side, because that's how we view the human anatomy. Yeah, or you can say the human body structure here. All right. This is the left primary bronchus. This is the upper lobe bronchus. Alright, you can also exclude this one. This is of no use over here. Alright, this is also notch for the heart. Yes, this is quite important. Let us understand through Mr. Joy over here. This is the left lung here. This is the left lung. And in between both of these lungs, heart is situated, but it is slightly tilted towards the left hand side. We always say that the heart is present on the left hand side actually, but it is not present on the left hand side. It is actually slightly tilted on the left hand side. That's why we see a little notch over here. This is the notch we are talking about. This is the notch. I hope this is clear. This is the notch which is not present on the right lung. Which is not present on the right lung. All right. So this is the notch we are talking about, because this is the space in which the heart is slightly tilted toward the left lung here. All right. Let us simply place it back. I think Mr. Joy is angry now. All right. Thank you. Done. This is the lower lobe, and this is the left lobe. All right, right lobe, lower lobe, middle lobe, upper lobe, right primary bronchus. Yes, this is of our use. And here we had the trachea, or you can simply call it as windpipe. Now, talking about the bronchi, as we have already understood, we are just going through the statements one by one here. Large tubes that further divide into smaller branches. Yes, into smaller branches known as bronchioles when they reach about 0.2 millimeter in diameter. So they branch until they reach this diameter of 0.2 millimeter. Now they will be called as, the further branching of these bronchi will be termed as bronchioles. The fine branches that end in cluster of thin walled pocket like air sacs, and what do we call them? We call them as alveoli. Alveoli are small air sac where gas exchange occurs between the air and the blood. So this is the human respiratory system representing the alveoli here. You can simply mark that these structures here is representing the bronchioles. Can you mark the bronchi here? Can you mark trachea here? This is the trachea. This is representing trachea. Can you mark bronchi? These structures are here representing bronchi. I hope it is visible. What are these? These are fine branches that terminate into alveolar sac. And what are we referring to? We are referring to the bronchioles here. As we have already understood about the epithelial lining also, alveoli have thin elastic walls composed of a single cell layer or epithelium in order to enhance the diffusion, in order to allow more and more molecules or the substances to pass a certain membrane. Done. Capillary network surrounds the alveolar walls, as we have already understood. This is the alveolar sac here, which is supplied by blood vessels here. Done? Yes, we can, Diwakar Jha, you can connect with our team and you can get the answer on that too. Capillary network surrounds the alveolar walls, facilitating the exchange of gases, oxygen and carbon dioxide between the air in the alveoli and the blood. These are fine branches here. These are again bronchioles. What are these? These are alveoli. What are these? Red and blue structures. These are blood capillaries. Moving further, ventilation is movement of the ribs which help in ventilate the lung to bring the fresh air and to remove the stale air from these, ensuring fresh air enters the alveoli. Protection, we have rib cage for the protection, which provides protection to the lungs, and heart as well, because heart is situated in between both of these lungs here. This is the heart here. It is slightly tilted toward the left hand side, and that's how it creates a notch like structure in the left lung. Understood? Humans have approximately 350 million alveoli. This is talking about per lung. So one lung has 300 to 350 million alveoli in each lung, providing a total surface area of about 90 square meters. You can imagine that. 90 square meters is the area served by alveoli when you bring it out from the lungs and spread it into a sheet. You will find that it is forming an area of 90 square meters for efficient gas exchange. It is crucial for meeting body's oxygen demand, because our body's oxygen demand is very high, and in order to get that fulfilled, our body needs a lot of oxygen continuously entering into our body. That's why we need that much, that 90 square meter area from our alveolar sac, and removing the carbon dioxide as well. Now, since we completed this particular topic, now there is one question related to that. Try to solve it and let me know in the comments that you got the answer or not. What is the path of carbon dioxide as it leaves the lungs? You can easily tell this. Try to answer. We will wait for a few seconds. Yes, you can tell. Alright, anyone? Alright. So what is the path of carbon dioxide as it leaves the lungs? So the region, alright. So Sheetha has answered that A is the correct option. Let us check whether it is true or not. Alright. So when it leaves the lungs, it will be first present in the alveoli, then in the bronchiole, then in the bronchi. This is the bronchiole. This is the alveoli. And then from the bronchi, it will be reaching to trachea or the windpipe. Alright. Yes, this is the correct answer. Alveoli, then bronchiole, then bronchus, then trachea. I hope this is clear. Moving further. Alright, we have another question. Try to answer this as well. What makes alveoli suitable as a gas exchange surface? Try to answer the next question. Whether large total surface area is required, whether well supplied with blood vessels, is this condition also required from the alveoli? What makes alveoli suitable as a gas exchange surface? Alright, so large total surface area will be required, yes, and well supplied with blood vessels, yes. This is also again true. So Joshita has continuously answered correct answers for these questions. Alright, so it is good to see everyone engaging in this session here. Now talking about the lung capacity here, both, so answer is A. Yes, yes, that is true. Yes. Ventilation refers to the movement of air into and out of the lungs. So carbon dioxide has been represented by the orange color over here, and the oxygen molecules are represented by the green color here. You can easily tell the transport of these two gases from this particular diagram here. We have pulmonary capillary here, alveolus here, the carbon dioxide which is present in less concentration in the alveoli. These are represented by these bubbles, and it is present high in concentration in the pulmonary capillary. The oxygen is going to enter into the pulmonary capillary. So let me mark the arrows for the same. The oxygen are going to enter into the blood capillary, and the carbon dioxide will be moving out from pulmonary capillary. All right. It occurs between the air in the lungs and the blood vessels, capillaries. I hope these particular statements or the language in these statements are not disturbing you. I hope, because we have already understood this very clearly, that it is actually occurring in between the air in the lungs and the blood vessel, which is the capillary surrounding the alveoli. Oxygen from the air enters the blood, while carbon dioxide from the blood is expelled into the air in the alveoli. I hope this is clear. This is from pulmonary artery and this is to pulmonary vein. Let us connect it to another topic, that is from the circulatory system, to understand this better. So how can you understand that? So human heart has 4 chambers. Understood? Human heart has 4 chambers. Let us represent it through this box. Understood? The blood, which is oxygenated, actually it is going to enter into the heart from pulmonary vein, and it is carrying oxygenated blood here. Oxygenated blood. The oxygenated blood will be leaving from the heart and will be going toward the body for the cells to utilize this oxygen to carry out the respiratory reactions. The deoxygenated blood will be going back to the heart, and from the heart it will go toward the lungs for further oxygenation. Now can you tell the name of these arteries, name of these blood vessels here? Let me mark 1, 2, 3 and 4. Can you quickly name these blood vessels? And let me give you another quiz as well for this. Name the chambers here. A, B, C, D. Try. I am representing here the direction of blood. So by the time I draw the directions here, you can tell the answers for 1, 2, 3, 4 and A, B, C, D as well. Try to answer it according to the options, that A is this atrium, whether it is right or it is left, and C is that ventricle, whether it is right or left. Try to answer that. Try to answer. I have already mentioned one blood vessel here that has made this game much more easier for now. It is going toward lungs. So tired of trying? Shall I mark the answers here? May I proceed? So A here is representing which atrium? Is it left or right? Is it left or right? A is right atrium. Then we have got B here. B is representing which atrium? This is left atrium. What is C here? C is representing left ventricle. And D here is representing right ventricle. Are you all done with the naming of the blood vessels here? Marked by numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So one here is the pulmonary vein, which is bringing the oxygenated blood from the lungs toward the heart. The 2 number here represents, alright, so this is the 2 number. Second here is representing aorta, that is the main artery. I'll get a side, just wait for a second. Yes, 2 is aorta and 3 is vena cava. Yes, that is pretty right. 4 here is pulmonary artery. Yes, this is pulmonary artery. I hope this is clear. Let me get a side. You can have a clear view of that. Alright. So that's how the blood vessels are arranged in the circulatory system. Now, from the pulmonary artery, which kind of blood is going to enter in the alveoli here? Now, let us quickly get to the answer here. Wait for a few seconds if anyone can answer this question. Which kind of blood is going to enter from pulmonary artery? Is it oxygenated or it is deoxygenated? Quickly. And the same goes to which kind of blood is going to get an exit to pulmonary vein. Alright, so the answer has come from Joshitha again, that is deoxygenated blood. This should be the answer for pulmonary artery, right? Am I right? So this is from pulmonary artery, deoxygenated blood has entered. Deoxygenated blood. Alright. And for the pulmonary vein, which kind of blood is getting an exit from the lungs here? Which kind of blood is that? Can you answer again? This is, alright, this is the oxygenated blood here. Now, the deoxygenated blood is coming from the pulmonary artery that we have just mentioned here. Alright, so this is the blood vessel which is carrying deoxygenated blood toward the lungs, and inside the lungs we have these alveolar sac where this oxygenation is actually occurring. So the alveolus will allow the oxygen to enter into the bloodstream, and that's the arrow here, and the carbon dioxide will leave from the blood vessel into the carbon dioxide, and that's how it will be getting expelled from the body. I hope this is clear. This is capillary vein, this is red cell, and then we have the endothelial cell, which is of no use at your syllabus. Done. Pathway of oxygenated blood here. Now you can easily tell this pathway. You can easily tell. Trust me, you can easily tell this answer. Oxygenated blood from the lung capillary is joined to form the pulmonary vein. Is it clear? The pulmonary vein was actually carrying the oxygenated blood, right? The pulmonary vein returns oxygenated blood to the left atrium of the heart. Can you tell that which was the atrium here in the heart which was receiving the blood from pulmonary vein here? It was the left atrium. So B was left atrium. So are we going right? Yes. From the left atrium, the blood flows into the left ventricle and it is pumped throughout the body to supply oxygen to the tissues. Let me know in the comments if you got any queries related to these 3 statements present here. Alright. So this is the superior vena cava. This picture can be more clear when you understand about the circulatory system and the heart structure as well. Alright. So this is aorta here, this is pulmonary veins, and heart is here, and that's how you can understand why heart is present in between these 2 lungs. Can you easily relate now? Yes, welcome Mr. Joy again. Alright, so that's the reason why the heart is placed in between the lungs here, because it is having a connection with the blood vessels which are having distributed into the lungs, which are supplying blood toward the blood capillaries through the alveolar bags. Alright, So that's why it is placed in between them. Alright, you can understand it better when Mr. Joy is here. Direction of blood is also represented through the arrows here. This is going down here. Alright, let me choose another marker. This is going down, down again, and it has moved to which atrium, sorry, which chamber of the heart is this? Which chamber of the heart is this? Can you tell? Which chamber of the heart is this? I have marked it with white marker. Can you tell which chamber of the heart is this? Let me mark it as A. Try to tell which chamber of the heart is represented by A here. And the same for region represented by B letter here. Which chamber is that? Try to tell. The chamber for A, the chamber for B. Try to answer. Alright. So which letter is representing right ventricle, Joshita? Is it for A? This must be for A because B is representing atrium. So this one here is right. I don't know why it is not working. Right ventricle, and B here is representing. B represents. Alright, we can proceed with that. B here is representing. Alright, so let me write the answer for here. A here, that is right ventricle. Alright. B here is representing left atrium. I hope this matches with your answer as well, that you have marked for letter B. Moving further. Alright. Lung capacity and breathing rate. Now our lungs are having a certain capacity. It is having a maximum capacity. It is having a minimum capacity as well. Let us understand that. The total volume of the lungs when fully inflated is approximately 5 liters in an adult. So the amount of air when our lungs are fully inflated, when they are maximized with the air present in them, it is representing 5 liters of air in an adult. The total volume of lungs when fully inflated is approximately 5 liters. During quiet breathing, when asleep or at rest, it is approximately equals to 500 centimeter cube of air which is exchanged. That comes out to be 0.5 liters. This is 0.5 liters of air when we are resting or sleeping. So when we are performing vigorous exercises, the lung can take in and expel up to additional 3 liters of air. That means that normally we were able to have this accommodation for 5 liter of air, but when we have this physical activity by our body, it additions up 3 liters of air as well. Why? Can you tell why? Because by this time when our body is representing or our body is under performing very high you can say physical activities, our body's oxygen demand increases. Why oxygen demand increases? As we have discussed in the first slide. What was that? Aerobic respiration was occurring, in which carbon dioxide was released, water was released, and a lot of energy was released. Now this energy is carried out for by our cells to carry out the further chemical reactions. Now as we are performing the physical activities, this energy will be taken up by that in order to contract and relax. This is performed by our muscle cells. The muscle cells contract and relax, and they need energy in order to contract or relax, and that's how we perform the physical activity, right? Understood? So as our activity inside our body increases, the ATP demand also increases. As the ATP demand increases, the oxygen demand is also increases. As the oxygen demand increases, our intake and exhalation times, which we call as like 12 times per minute, we breathe in and breathe out 12 times in a minute, it actually increases. And as it increases the volume of air which is entering into our lungs. And what is that air? What is that volume? It is 3 liters of air. Understood? Lung capacity and breathing rate. There is a residual volume. What do we mean by this term residual? Which is like, which is present, which is actually present. It is of no use. It is just residing there. It is having no use here. There is a residual volume of about 1.5 liters that remains in the lungs after maximum exhalation. We have maximally exhaled and we are still having some amount of air inside our lungs. That is not in your syllabus, the amount or the volume of air which is represented by this volume, residual volume, but let me tell you that this is approximately 1100 to 1200 milliliter, or you can tell that 1.1 to 1.2 liter of air is always present in your lungs. Even if you expire to your maximum potential, this amount of air is present into your lungs, inside your lungs always. That's why the name is residual volume, which cannot be expelled even with forceful breathing. You cannot remove this air from your body. Alright. Breathing patterns at rest. The adults typically breathe about 12 times per minute. That is the breathing rate, which is at normal conditions. Understood? During exercise, the breathing rate can increase to over 20 breaths per minute. And why did this occur? In order to provide more and more oxygen to our cells, to release more and more energy by our cells. Understood? With deeper breaths to meet increased oxygen demand. Understood? The breath becomes deep and the time of breaths also increases. So that should be noted from this particular slide because we are having one question related to that. Alright, so since we covered this, let's move on to the topics questions here. What helps oxygen to be absorbed rapidly into blood in the lungs? Try to answer this question here. Try to answer. What helps oxygen to be absorbed rapidly into blood in the lungs? The options are here. Air breathed in has less oxygen than air breathed out. Alveoli have thick walls and a large surface area. Alveoli have thin walls and a large surface area. The concentrations of oxygen in the blood is higher than in the alveoli. So by the time you answer this question, let me just talk to Mr. Joy. How's the day going so far with him? All right. Can you tell? Can you tell the answer for that? A, B, C, D. What helps oxygen to be absorbed rapidly into the blood in the lungs? Now talking about the air which is breathed in, it should have more oxygen. It should have more oxygen. So that's how the option A goes incorrect. Option B. Alveoli have thick walls and a large surface area. Alveoli, if they have thick walls, they will increase the time by the gases that was taken to perform this diffusion. Alright, so diffusion will be delayed in this case. This is also incorrect here. Talking about option C here, it is alveoli have thin walls and a large surface area. Thin walls is a correct characteristic of alveoli, and a large surface area is also provided by alveoli. And what was that? What was that? It was 90 meters square. The concentration of oxygen in the blood is higher than in the alveoli. Is it true? No, absolutely not. Because the concentration of oxygen in the blood is lesser than in the alveoli. So the answer comes out to be Option number C here. Alright. The diagram shows a section through an alveolus and a capillary. Where can you locate the alveolus? It is present here. Let me mark it. This is alveoli. And what is this? This is the blood capillary. Now try to answer this question. Try to answer this question. Why does why does carbon dioxide move from X to Y? This is X. That means X is representing here the blood capillary and Y here is representing alveoli. Air has a lower concentration of carbon dioxide than the blood. This is not true. This is incorrect. Alright. Carbon dioxide moves more freely in air than in blood. This is of no relation here. Carbon dioxide must replace oxygen. Diffusion of carbon dioxide can only be out of the blood. Wherever there is high concentration, the carbon dioxide is going to leave that region. This is ultimately incorrect. So the right answer for this question is again option C. So the answer for previous question was option C and the answer for this question is option C. Alright. Now this is the question that requires your attention. Try to solve it. The graph shows changes in the volume of air in the lungs of a person at rest over a period of 30 seconds. So this is the graph which we are referring to in the question. It is having a time that is 30 seconds and by the y-axis it is representing volume of air in lungs taken in decimeter cube. Which graph shows changes in the volume of air in the lungs of the same person immediately after they have done 5 minutes of vigorous exercise? So what actually happens when the person is performing vigorous exercise? There were 2 pointers. The number of breaths increases and depth of breathing also increases. It also increases. Can you answer this question? The graph shows changes in the volume of air in the lungs of a person at rest. So this is at rest. So C is for this question. Let us mark this question number as X. Is C the option for this? Joshita, try to recall the concept when we were talking about the person is performing vigorous exercise. The person was performing vigorous exercise and then there were 2 conditions. Number of breaths increases and depth of breathing also increases. Now how can you answer this question here? Let us mark these peak as 1 breath. So how many breaths are there in A option? First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there are 13 breaths in 30 seconds. Understood? Now, talking about the number of breaths in option B, it is 1, 2, 3, approximately 3 breaths. In option number C, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, approximately 12 in 30 seconds. And in option in option D, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 breaths. So which graph is representing high number of breaths in 30 seconds? Ultimately, it is going to be the battle between option A and option C. Option A and option C. Now, The second point that need to be remembered here, that the depth of breathing also increases. And how can you relate that? On the y-axis, the volume of air is represented. So as you perform exercise, the volume of air also increases, and you can also relate volume of air with depth of breathing. Depth of breathing increases, volume of air increases. Understood? So as the volume of air increases, it is ultimately telling us that the depth of breathing also increases. This should be option number C. This should be option number C, since it is having higher volume of air in lungs. A large volume of air has been exchanged in graph C. So you have marked A, then C, then B. Try to apply the concepts. No B, why? Why but? It can't be B. The number of breaths has increased. The depth of breathing has increased, as it is represented by option C. So C is going to be the right option here. Alright. B and D are already out of the battle because it is not showing an increase in number of breaths. Understood? Let's move further. Now, there is also one topic, that is protection of breathing system here. Two important mechanisms that protect the respiratory system from pathogens and particles. Understood? What are those? Goblet cells and ciliated cells. Now, what is the function of both of these cells? The goblet cells helps in the production of mucus. Mucus traps the bacteria, traps the pathogens in that, and ciliated cells help in removing these pathogens, these bacteria, these agents out from the body by moving in a coordinated pattern, or you can say they show a coordinated movement by which they expel the mucus out from your lungs, from your throat, and that's how you expel it. A. Now what is the confusion? Option A. You can apply the concept again. No worries, no issues. So mucus secretion is the function that is performed by goblet cells here. Location: goblet cells are specialized. These are found in epithelial lining of the trachea. So this was the trachea here. It is having incomplete rings over it. Understood? And imagine if, alright, so now what we can do here is, alright, so let us imagine if this is the trachea, this is the windpipe here. Then if we cut it like this and observe it from side, we are going to see a lot of sticky substances that are visible to our eyes. Alright, so this is the trachea. We had cut it like this and we are observing it from the side. We are going to observe some sticky substance, that is the mucus. That is the mucus. So goblet cells are specialized cells found in the epithelial lining of the trachea. So this mucus was produced by the cells which are located behind that mucus. Goblet cell is producing mucus. This is how the goblet cell looks like. Alright, so this is the goblet cell here. It is, it is having mitochondria, it is having nucleus, it is having internal mesh apparatus, and it will be releasing the mucus on its surface. Let us imagine if it is secreting the mucus over its surface. This is the mucus, alright, produced by the goblet cells. Understood? Now, this mucus will now trap the particles, trap the infection causing agents, trap the pathogens inside them, and then comes the role of ciliated cells, which will move this mucus in an order to, you can say, to remove this mucus out from your throat. Alright, so that's how it helps in protection of the breathing system. Goblet cells are specialized cells found in the epithelial lining of the trachea, bronchi and some bronchioles. So where are they present? They are present because it is 13 right now. But the volume of air has increased in option B, right? The volume of air is remaining the same in option A. That's why we have not marked A as the right answer. The volume of air is increasing. That means that the depth of breathing is increasing. That's why we have marked option C as our right answer, in which the depth of breathing is also increasing. Now, how can you tell that additional 3 liters of air is getting into consideration when we are performing vigorous exercise? How will you tell that? Because volume of air has increased. That's also by additional 3 liters. And you can represent that by this particular graph that is present in option C. I hope I have made this thing clear to you, Joshita. Don't get confused. Apply the concept directly here. The volume of air increases, the number of breaths also increases. Understood? Alright. Now talk about the mucus secretion by the goblet cell. The function of goblet cell is these cells secrete mucus, a sticky liquid that forms a thin film over the internal lining of the respiratory tract. So wherever these goblet cells are present, they are going to secrete mucus from them. Done? Purpose. So what is the function that is served by this mucus? The mucus acts as a protective barrier by trapping pathogens like bacteria and small particles present in the inhaled air here. Alright. So this is the respiratory epithelium on which mucus will be released. It will be present here. Understood? Mucus secretion by goblet cells, it prevents the infection by trapping these particles. Mucus prevents them from entering deeper into the respiratory tract, respiratory system, particularly the alveoli. So it does not enter the alveoli, and that's how we prevent this infection, where they could potentially cause infections or physical damage. This is a mucus which is secreted by goblet cells here. Alright, and this is a section from trachea or the windpipe. You had this windpipe, you cut a bit section of this, you observe the inner lining of this trachea or the windpipe is lined by some sticky liquid, that is the mucus. This is the mucus here. Understood? Ciliated cells, where are they located? They are located in the epithelial lining of the respiratory tract alongside the goblet cells. So goblet cells are also present in the respiratory system, but ciliated cells are also present there. These cells have tiny hair-like structure which are called as cilia that continually move in a flicking motion in a coordinated manner so as to push the mucus away from the lungs towards the throat. Understood? This is the ciliated cell here, and goblet cell is also represented here. This portion is of your use. Understood? And here you can easily see this is the mucus lining. This is the mucus lining. I hope, Joshita, your query has been resolved. I hope you are satisfied. Yes. The cilious movement helps to transport the mucus which has trapped the pathogens and particles upward and away from the lungs. Clearance process, once the mucus reaches the upper part of the trachea, it is then moved down to the esophagus, which is the food pipe, during the normal swallowing. So how does it clear? Once the mucus reaches the upper part of the trachea, so this is the trachea, the mucus was being transported throughout it till it reaches the upper part of the trachea here, then it is moved down the esophagus during normal swallowing. So when we are swallowing anything, so the mucus will be transported to the esophagus. Now where is esophagus present? It is just present behind the trachea. It is present here. This is the trachea. If I talk about my body, so it has trachea in front, and at the back side of this trachea, esophagus is present. So when I remove this trachea here, esophagus will be visible. Understood? This is the trachea and this is the esophagus. This is the food pipe here. So once the mucus reaches the tip or the upper part of the trachea, then it will be transferred to the esophagus, and this will be swallowed whenever we are performing this process of swallowing. What is the outcome? This mechanism effectively clears potentially harmful substances from the respiratory tract. So we have prevented these substances from entering into our bloodstream, entering into our alveolar sacs, and that's how we have prevented our breathing system from further infections, preventing them from causing infections or irritation. This is the cilia. These are the ciliated cells. Ciliated cells. Goblet cells producing mucus. I hope this is clear. Alright, so we have completed majority of the portion that we were about to discuss in today's session. So we had mostly completed all of the topics. We have some questions left here. You can answer that. The diagram shows some ciliated cells from the trachea. Alright, so these are the cilia. Tiny hair-like structures. These are the cilia. And what is this cell that is having these white granules in them? What is this cell called? This is the goblet cell here. Yes. The answer for this is moving mucus. Another question. The diagram shows some structures in the human neck and thorax. The lining of the tube Q has a cilia. So tube Q must be, what is the name of tube Q here? This should be trachea. I hope you can relate now. What is an important function of the cilia here? To help in the exchange of gases, to increase the internal surface area of tube Q, to moisten the air entering and leaving the lungs, to move mucus toward the throat. Yes, the answer is going to be option number D. Alright, so that's all we have got for today's session. So it was a great job. You all have asked amazing questions and stayed engaged throughout this particular session, and I personally really enjoyed going live with you all. So we will be moving more. We will be moving with most important topics in other live discussions also. And thank you for joining us today. So see you in the next video. Till then, take care. Thank you.